advocate.
I don't have to because we don't have one.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, good folks, and welcome to the City of Muskegon Planning Commission meeting for this Thursday, February 15th of 2024. Now we have roll call, please.
Ken Johnson,
Here.
Stephen Gowron,
Here.
Leah Willette, Leroy,
It's fine. Here.
Jonathan Seifert,
Here.
Destiny Keener,
Here.
Jill Montgomery Keast,
Here.
Shoni Blake. Absent.
All right, we have quorum. Before we get on with the agenda for today's proceedings, we do have some business, some housekeeping to take care of, which is with regard to the organization of our planning commission for chair and vice chair. And so I'm only temporarily sitting in this seat just to get things started. I do propose that Brian Mazade be chair and Commissioner Keener be vice chair. I did speak with Mr. Mazade, and he said he'd be willing to serve. He's just out of town on February and March. But aside from that, he'd be happy to serve.
Support.
What, oh, sorry. You were
I'm-
motion. Okay. You're.
I
so-
presume she's making the motion.
Okay.
so
I support.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm
All
having
right.
Move. Support.
I
There
can't
you
make the
go.
motion.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just proposing.
Well, there. I just made the motion then.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Keast, Montgomery Keast, and supported by Commissioner Seifert. Any questions? Comments?
New here.
No? All right, roll call, please.
Jill Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Ken Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Gowron,
Yes.
Leah Leroy,
Yes.
Jonathan Seifert,
Yes.
Destiny Keener.
Yes.
That's it.
All right. The ayes have it. Well, congratulations, Madam Vice Chair, now serving in the chamber capacity of chair for this proceedings of tonight's meeting.
So now I gotta move. Huh?
This is the second part of the
Congratulations.
Thank you. Woo, that's a lot happening in 2 years. Well, I am new here, so please have patience with me as I get used to this role. Okay, so what do we do next?
So we move into public hearings.
approval minutes.
So
Oh, sorry. Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from our December 14th, 2023 meeting.
Support.
So we've got a motion and support.
we have a motion and support to approve the minutes from the meetings of December 14, 2023.
Discussion.
Is there any discussion? Would anybody like to move to support these minutes?
Okay.
Oh,
You go to roll
Say
call.
just roll call.
huh?
Roll call.
Roll call. Sorry, secretary.
Steve Gowron,
Yes.
Leah Leroy,
Yes.
Jonathan Seifert,
Yes.
Destiny Keener,
Yes.
Jill Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Ken Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
At this time, we have no old business, so we'll be moving on to public hearings. During this time, members of the public may each provide up to 3 minutes of remarks, whether in person or by phone. Audience members are encouraged to complete a comment form at the back of the room and submit it to staff at the end of the dais.
You don't have to do that. You can just raise your hand.
Oh, feel free to.
Yeah. We.
do want them to do the form.
You can just raise your hand.
No, we do want them to do
We do want them to?
Yeah.
All right.
We apologize. We are trying to get into the routine of submitting forms.
Somebody needs to use really bad.
We have pins back there.
We'll talk. Talk later. Right. So the main question I got.
Are these timed just like it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
So we are going to ask that you limit yourself to 3 minutes. when you reach the podium. Also, please give your name. You don't necessarily have to give your address, but please put that on your form. I'll give you a few minutes.
Ask for the staff report.
Staff report.
Yeah. Yeah, you could ask, you can ask Mike if he wants to report out.
Oh, I am sorry. Mike, would you like to report out?
Sure.
Thank you.
The first is hearing case 2024-01. This is a request to amend the planning and development at 1148 1204 West Western Avenue, which is Adelaide Point. It is the fourth amendment to the Adelaide Point PUD. We've provided a summary of the changes up until this point from the different iterations of the plan. We've also recently updated the documentation that goes over the Hartshorn Village PUD, so we can pull that up if anybody needs, because those two plans kind of go hand in hand. This requested amendment includes the following. The primary function of the east boat basin will change from a boat staging area to fishing. The shopper docks will be moved to the east side of the existing boat launch next to the forklift drop. Transient docks will be moved to the east side of the central peninsula, and the fuel dock has been moved to the central basin. A planning median has been introduced on Adelaide Boulevard to denote the entrances into the development. The former rail path has been converted into a multi-use path along the southern edge of the campus. And a connection has been made from the bike path on the west side of the development to the Sharrow lanes on Adelaide Circle. We included some information on the literature on the shopper dock relocation, and also a visual which shows the fishing and ADA access plan. Notice was sent to everybody within 300 feet of the property. We did receive the letter from Ted Fricano, which I placed in front of everybody. You can take a look at that. Staff's recommendation, we had looked at other options for moving that rail out of the drive entrance for the storage building. It turns out it's probably going to be easiest just to leave that where it is. That is where the formal railroad easement goes through. We've worked with the engineering department, and we think it would be best to keep it there, and we will just denote where the bike path goes through painting in that area. We have asked for a more detailed landscaping plan to go into the landscaping median, which they are working on still. And they did provide a phasing plan as well. I can pass that down here.
Cool.
The one thing we're still kind of looking for is when the establishment of the last street would go in. That's not anticipated to go in until the last boat storage buildings are going in, and in the meantime it's going to serve more as a parking lot, so we want him to work with staff to kind of reimagine what that area is going to look like in the meantime, and we don't want people that are going into the development to kind of use that as a cut around, so we're going to have to introduce some measures to keep traffic out of that until it becomes an official street, but we feel like we still have plenty of time to work with them on hashing those plans out.
Questions?
Do we want to go into public comment to see if maybe there's some questions from the public that we could incorporate into our discussion, or do we want to have discussion for?
I'd like to hear from the developer.
You can bring him up first.
May we have developer please come up?
That's me. Okay, hold on here a second.
Will you be so kind and give your name?
Yes, ma'am. Ryan Leesma, Adelaide Point, 1204 West Western Avenue. Plug this in here.
I need pictures.
Yes, providing pictures. This should be lighting up here. There we go. Okay, cool. So a couple of small changes. Number one, we did vacate the small boat basin, which is denoted by the area that I just circled. A couple of problems with it were, as the water dropped, we saw that there were some historical lumber dock piles, which would make it unsafe for navigation to go into there with vessels. Number two, when we opened up the municipal peninsula, we created quite a bit of new fishing access, around 1,700 new linear feet of fishing access, and found out that the southern portion of the East Basin here, specifically where the sheep pile is at, has turned into a bit of a hot spot for yellow perch fishing. Adelaide Point and Bear Lake Tavern funded a $10,000 study through Purdue University where they came out to study the migratory and spawning behaviors of yellow perch. And in that study, they determined for the first time that there's actually two different species of yellow perch. The Lake Michigan perch most people are aware of, like cold, deep water. Muskegon lake perch, like shallower, lighter water. And it turns out that that spot is one of their favorite hangouts. And so with all the new fishing that was opened up past that gate, we thought that this was probably a good move to move the boats out of there and preserve that area for fishing. With that being said, the cooperative use agreement, which was designed to enable all of Adelaide Point's waterfront property and fishing pier to be open and available to the public, was predicated on us being able to relocate our boat launching operations, which are a critical part of Adelaide Point's business. The yellow fishing pier, as denoted here, introduces roughly about 900 linear feet worth of ADA accessible fishing when that pier is completed in late spring, early summer. The waterfront that we have on our parcel indicates another 2,350 linear feet of terrestrial access fishing, so non-ADA. And the total amount of space that we would require for our boat launching services in order to make that available to the public equates to roughly around 370 linear feet. Up until this point, Adelaide has actually completely rebuilt that forklift drop that's there. It turned out that the slab, which had as-built of being 10 inches thick, was only 6 inches thick, and the sheet pile had steel bars that were tied into its face and pulled back into the dirt to stabilize the sheet pile from coming forward. That was built in the 60s. That steel rod had actually eroded away, and so there's every foot there was a hole about this big, and during the high water was going into the sheet pile, and it had completely eroded all the sand that was in there to about 3 feet deep in the center. So it was not only unsuitable for our boat launching services, which we require for the business, but it was also frankly unsafe. Like I said, it was about $250,000 worth of preparation to make sure that it never fails again. The docks that we used to have in the East Basin have been relocated to that area. We would primarily be launching boats with our forklift next to those short docks. They are 20-foot gangways with 40-foot sections. The boat would be dropped in the water after spotters would make sure that there was no conflict with pedestrian traffic in the area. They would then be staged and placed on this staging dock here. That staging dock was contemplated to be used for multiple purposes. It could be used for A, serving members of the public that decided they wanted to utilize our dry marina service. B, it could be utilized for people using the trailer ramp. Right now, it's a bit dicey trying to tie up to that dock section that the city has because it's too short for a lot of vessels. And I personally have witnessed a bit of consternation going down there. Members of the public that would like to use our L dock to stage their boat while they safely go get their vehicle and trailer and back it in, etc. We have no problem with that. The other thing it could be used for, C, is for shopper dock access. This dock is actually closer to downtown than what we had in the East Basin. and then fourthly, it could be used for fishing access. So in total, there's about 300, actually, let me see what that number is again.
What are the dimensions of that thing?
There's about 370 linear feet worth of, oh, it's doing that on me. Between this here and this, so 240 feet of dock, and then roughly about 130 linear feet on the forklift drop. Now, it is an important means of access for certain members of the community so that they can pull up in a handicapped vehicle and immediately be on the water. That idea was contemplated via the addition of some ADA accessible parking with appropriate spacing so that someone would be able to, park their vehicle, immediately exit their vehicle, and begin fishing immediately. I also want to re-emphasize that with Adelaide Point, that there's going to be 900 linear feet worth of new ADA fishing on that fishing pier. The railing on the lake side will be at 34 inches tall so that it meets ADA guardrail requirements for accessibility. The marina side would be at your standard 42 inches. The fishing pier is going to be 12 feet wide, so it's going to be quite large, and depending on where I end up with budget, maybe there'll be a much larger congregating area at the end of the fishing pier, but that's not denoted at this point. So from my perspective, in conjunction with the net new fishing opportunities that have been created on the municipal peninsula since we opened up that gate, this plan continues the trajectory of the cooperative use agreement to create new fishing opportunities both for those who have special needs and the general public. It allows us to continue cooperating in that agreement by the necessary usage of some boat launching facilities. It improves shopper dock access for the general public, and it creates a net new type of fishing opportunity within Hartshorn.
Dustin, I got some question.
Oh, yes, please.
Brian, can you tell me the construction of the attenuator there, the L dock? What is that? How is that going to be constructed?
So it's the same dock that we have in our central basin. It's 8 feet wide. It's a floating dock. It's made by the exact same company. It is anchored by a combination of spuds and a couple of select piles that will keep it located in its proper location. At the end of the season, it will be removed, and it will be floated into the Adelaide Point Basin. So we did not put anything more in there than what we had. I've learned with Eagle: avoid, minimize, mitigate, do as little as possible, or don't do it if you can help it. Minimize what you have to do and then mitigate the rest. So we didn't want to put in some sort of permanent structure that A, would frankly fail at some point in time, and B, have more impact on the environment than what was necessary.
What is the distance, like say from the dock to the attenuator? That
120 feet.
is 120. And then under M7, can you tie off there? That new wall that you built? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, M7 is an existing wall.
Okay.
That was
Are
where
there
the Port
tie-offs
City...
there?
They're not good. I mean, the Port City Princess tied up there. There's some upright columns. It's frankly quite dilapidated at this point. A larger vessel might be able to tie up there because of its higher freeboard, but like a smaller vessel would not be able to.
Okay.
But I think frankly that's an opportunity in the future. But
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other modifications would have to be made there in order for people to even climb off of the dock, even if it was in place.
All right. Get a better picture. Thank you.
Any other questions?
A couple questions, can I?
Yes.
So you mentioned that the precipitation for this change is because there was a navigational hazard in M8. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
But you have not denoted that on this map.
Say that it's not
That's
denoted.
not like the actual navigational hazard that you're identifying. Is that M2 or it's just not denoted on this map? Is that correct?
Yeah, the navigational hazard actually starts. I don't know why my computer keeps doing this here. Hold on. Navigational hazard starts here, and it basically runs alongside the municipal peninsula, which creates a bit of a choke point when you hit the tip of the peninsula.
Can I ask a clarification question, Madam Chair? And wasn't part of another reason because Eagle had said because there was an existing similar structure adjacent to our boat ramp that the forklift drops would need to be moved over there because there was a similar existing structure?
Well, so what also hit is putting the forklift drop over at M8 in the southern portion of the East Basin. Hartshorn Foundry polluted the bejesus out of that thing. Like, it is probably one of the worst spots on the lake. And the amount of pollutants that they found in the sediment that we pulled out was horrific. And it was considered to be a major pollution problem. And then again, they said, well, you've got this thing over here. Why don't you just use that? Because again, Eagle, they do avoid, minimize, mitigate. If you can avoid it, don't do it. And so that's when we began our conversation with the city, and that's what created the foundation for the cooperative use agreement.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Just a quick follow-up to that section and the boating in that area. So this was previously used for boating purposes. There were small boats located in this area. So what would be the future expected accessibility of boats to enter this area?
Are you talking in the whole general area there?
Based on this proposed plan,
Yes.
the ability for small boats to continue to access this lagoon.
Are you talking inside of the L?
No,
Or just
inside
the
of
entire
M8
general
is.
where
area?
I can't zoom in.
Oh,
M8.
you're talking about the East Basin.
Small boat base. Well,
I
formerly it
mean,
was known as a small boat
There's
base.
no reason why somebody couldn't, right? But there are piles that are either coming out of the water now or slightly submerged. I don't personally think it's safe for navigation. A, because of the piles, and B, as the water level drops and it continues to narrow the basin due to the slope on the Adelaide Point side, it's going to get narrower and narrower and narrower there. Another issue is that since we started cleaning things out there a little bit, there's been quite a bit of return of waterfowl that's come in there as well. And so, you know, I wasn't expecting it, but I think it's turned into something that's, you know, probably better to leave more natural. Anyway, and running a boat through there, and I don't know, I just think it's probably a good thing to avoid.
Question right quick. Okay, refresh my mind. It's been a couple of meetings since you last discussed this. So what is because I remember you talking about the debris and
Yes.
leaving it as is. So what is the plan for that M8 space then? Just, are you gonna build it up along, beautify it, or just leave it?
Eventually, we want to beautify the city's municipal peninsula and both of our peninsulas. We're working with Congressman Molinar and Skolton to get an appropriation for around $2 million to make beautification improvements. We were going to improve the municipal peninsula right out of the gate, but then realized that all of that industrial concrete and debris that currently is surrounding that entire peninsula, it's not sightly. There's rebar coming out of parts of it. It doesn't look good. So in order to make like a permanent improvement that really maximizes the aesthetic pairing with the lake, the thought was we should pull all this out and we should replace it with either A, more attractive rock, or B, if possible, stick with the soft shoreline. So we're basically waiting on that funding.
Okay, thank you.
And I had just one more follow-up to the launch area. Is the public going to have access to that? Like, if I wanted to go launch my 20-foot boat, I can do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we're not preventing anybody from.
And we can use all, three basins, all three areas to launch?
Yes, I personally don't have any problem with that. Like I said, the kind of the order of priority is, you know, first our boat launching services that we need. In fact, I think I denoted it on here.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Boat launching, shopper dock, access. If people want to tie up and they want to go downtown, there's no fee for that. trailer staging, and fishing. And I personally think it's pretty simple. It just means get along, right? It means don't be
Yeah.
a dink. Don't throw your fishing line into somebody's boat, right? Don't shoo people away. Just get along and go along. There's a lot of new members of the public that are going to be using this area as customers. But there's also existing members of the public that are using this particular area.
Right.
And I think it's fairly simple for everybody to get along.
And then just to follow up, your hours of operation for the in and out service, what time are you going to start launching boats in the morning and what time are you going to be done at night? So
Park hours is pretty much what we're looking at. I mean, technically the park closes at sunset.
Okay.
And so, you know, initially we talked about the idea of having some sort of gate in place in order to make sure that people aren't
Yeah.
jumping on people's boats at night. And in a conversation with Dan, you know, we agreed that we could just not have that. We might end up putting, like, say, a motion light out there or maybe a camera or something to kind of dissuade someone from doing something to somebody else's property. But the city policy is that you're not allowed in the park after hours. And so that would kind of be the starting point for any sort of, you know, enforcement action.
Okay.
During daylight hours, we would more than likely be there anyway.
And do you do in and out service on demand or is it by appointment? So, you know, if I just showed up at your place at 8 o'clock in the morning and said I want my boat, you'd go get it?
You can do that. Kind of an exciting thing. We're going to be the only in and out rack facility in West Michigan that has an app. So right now people have to go to a
Make your
facility and they got to track down George
Right.
or whoever it is and say, can you please grab my boat and put it in?
Yeah.
Actually, a couple of guys from West Michigan, Chris Decker, they now live in Florida, but they created this app. Pull it open on your phone. It's a big red button. It says launch my boat. And then you select your options like, you know, fuel, clean, ice, you know, whatever. And then you put in the time that you want to show up. We're actually adding a video feed on it that shows that entire basin there. And then it pops up on our operator's iPad. It shows, you know, who's going to go in when. And what's also cool is that at any given moment we can see who of our customers are out operating on the lake.
Okay.
So for instance, if, you know, it's say a half hour from sunset,
Yep.
we can call them and say, hey, the park closes at sunset, we need you to come back.
Okay.
Right? So there's, you know, I think it's cool.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done.
So one of the reasons that we're looking at this, and this is just kind of for some of our new commissioners, is the city currently has a cooperative use agreement with Adelaide Point that allows for the use of the forklift drops for the in and out operation. And by moving the docks to the forklift drop, it kind of consolidates that operation so that the boats aren't moving from the forklift drop around the peninsula and back in, so it can be a more efficient operation and also hopefully work better with the general public who would be using the boat launch. And that was one of the reasons from the staff perspective that we were looking at this change.
So there's one other interesting thing with this too, is that Adelaide Boulevard is going to have a new entrance to Hartshorn that wasn't there before, and it actually will completely separate any sort of trailer traffic from our forklift traffic. So that's also another reason why to move it over there versus congesting here where it was before.
Sounds.
That would be a good question for Mike. Oh yeah, I think the way he's because his you want to ask your question?
Yes.
Dan? Yeah.
For either you or Mike, that new road, is that in the current plan? Is this the current plan first off? And is that new road in the current plan? Because I just see where you drew it, but I don't see
It's being built right now, so the curbs are in on both sides at this point. I think they're going to start putting in the curbage here in the next couple of days. that road will be existing by probably the beginning of March is what I would guess. But it's not going to be open to the public yet because we gotta do all the other roads that are in there. But by May 1st, for certain, it will be open.
So is this a change that was just made, or was this a conversation with you two, Mike, about this change in the road?
The road has been on the plan in this iteration for some time now, so this isn't a new change.
Okay.
It had
Being
been
added?
moved in the past. If you saw on the write-up, it was previously a little bit more to the east, and it got moved to the west, I believe. So, but it's been like this for a couple iterations of the plan now.
Thank you.
To the question of the boat traffic, so for public users who are just coming to launch their boats, can you give us a clear indication of how you expect that traffic to work according to this plan?
So I expect that people will be coming in this way. They will be going like this. They will be backing in their boat, and then they'll be parking it right there where they. Okay.
How many parking spaces do you feel are going to be available to this type of traffic on any given
I think
day?
right now there's 15 or 16 trailer spots. I personally have never seen more than 3 or 4 vehicles and trailers there ever.
Yeah, but if it's
I'm sorry.
If I was just going to remark on that, the reason why you only see so few there is because the launch has been shuttered essentially for the past several years due to high water.
For a number of
levels.
years, yeah, it was
we've
shuttered.
not had the level of investment that's needed in that launch ramp in order to make it more welcoming or enticing. Something that I anticipate and expect will be resolved as part of this development moving forward with Adelaide Point.
I think so, and especially if you look at all the customers that are coming, all the members of the public that are coming over to us for our dry marina, a lot of these customers have trailers. So whereas before they would be trailering their boat to some sort of a ramp, now they don't have to. That basically keeps congestion off of the ramp, which, you know, is important too. People need to be able to access it in a timely manner. You don't want to drive all the way out there and then find out that you can't drop it in. So.
To your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so in contrast, in some research earlier today, the state still perceives that this boat launch has 50 parking spots. You know, obviously things, they have not been updated, but that's the perception of what it had before compared to what it will have in the future. So we are making a reduction, and folks who are not currently using other means of accessing their boats, access to this launch compared to what it used to be.
Right now, there are parking spots here as well.
It's parking for the launch.
Trailer.
I don't know why that's.
Trailer size.
And can I ask just a clarification question? That's not the subject of the PUD amendment that's before us today. Is not the parking, it's specifically the docks.
Any further comment, questions? Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to get some clarification earlier when Commissioner Montgomery Keese was asking about prioritization and the use of, I believe you were referring to M5 and M6 earlier. Okay, so not M10, because you mentioned that Adelaide Point and the In-N-Out Boat Storage Service would be first in that ranking, and I just wanted to make sure we were not speaking to, or you were not contemplating the launch ramp itself.
No.
But you, okay, because I heard
No.
launch earlier, and so I just
No.
wanted to make sure that there's we're on the same page there, because the use of the launch ramp is on a non-preferential, non-exclusive basis. So I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
Okay.
we had talked about, you know, eventually like us picking and placing, you know, larger vessels there, but that sort of effort is always done in off hours from when the public is using it. Certainly not on the weekends. That's when my employees are off. So that's not a need that's anticipated until we get to, say, like the hotel. Like when we look at putting in the hotel, there's going to have to be a more in-depth conversation about the level of use of that ramp, because we will forever cut ourselves off from being able to launch boats on our hydraulic trailer if we build that hotel. It's but that's not contemplated here, and we don't use it at all right now.
Okay. This is a question for either you or staff with regard to the handicap parking that I see right before the plank for M6. Is that the only handicap parking, and what we're the only place that we're considering, accessible parking and fishing, or are we anticipating, to that red line just to the east of there, or northeast, or just to the right on the document? Anticipate that also being accessible fishing, so it's going to be a hardened platform that someone could pull up and fish from, or
So there's 2 spaces denoted on here, but I think there's room for 3. So starting there is the best thing to do because we don't have to make any curb modifications, and there's plenty of space between the existing curb and the sheet pile for even a longer vehicle with a handicap accessible ramp attached to it could use. I personally have never seen more than one person in a wheelchair using that at once. That whole area. And again, if you had to choose between, there, which you can, and then there's 900 linear feet that's further out into the lake with a better view, I think that most people would want to probably go over there. So I can't remember what the total amount of expansion is, but I mean, it's going from 130 feet to 930 feet with our fishing pier. So
are
it's
you
a
going to
big
be
improvement.
because what I'm seeing here, if this is what's going to be executed, it does look like a net reduction in accessible fishing from that area. Now, I do understand, I'm talking about from the shoreline, a hardened shoreline. I do understand you're speaking to the deck and dock going out that you can access, as well as, M14 and the new one over there. But M14 is a ways away from the parking area. So are you going to have perhaps like electric scooters stationed near the parking area on that far western, so that someone could park there and use that scooter to navigate to?
I
Or
was
nice
not contemplating purchasing any
fishing dock?
scooters. I think it's a good idea. I think as there's more and more members of the public using our drive facility, who, as a benefit of being one of our customers, they have access to the pool and they have access to the other amenities that are up by the central basin. Eventually, there will probably be some sort of trolley, would probably be too big of a word for it, but something that will kind of go back and forth, because there's going to be like a natural traffic flow between the dry marina and the wet marina and the restaurant and everything. So it's a good idea, but right out of the gate, I don't know how much it would be used.
I just want to throw some at you. Back to that M7 thing, Ryan, when you were showing, do your little picture of, dropping the boat off and go and park in your trailer. I boat a lot, okay? And most of the time, there's one person that knows how to operate that boat and can operate the trailer. So somebody is left holding onto the boat while somebody goes parks it, then the other person.
Exactly.
I'm almost thinking that M7 needs tie off, because otherwise it's going to be really congested.
There's nothing to tie off there right
Yeah.
now, because
Well,
if the
think
water
about a
were
wall
here.
or something in
Well-
there, because that's where people are going to stand with their boat.
So
waiting
you're-
for so and so to get back from the trailer.
But what I think they'll do is I think they'll tie off on the outboard side of M6.
That's a long way to go with a boat if you don't know what you're doing.
Well, I'm saying tie it off and then go get your vehicle and then back it in and then retrieve your vehicle or your boat off of M6 and put it in.
Yeah, just
This is different.
suggesting,
That's what was previously.
because
The
been there,
parking
done
is
that.
different.
If you're ever bored, go to a ramp for entertainment.
Exactly. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Well, so, it was brought up a parking situation earlier, and it was mentioned that this wasn't necessarily relevant to the request that's before us. However, the PUD that has been presented, the imagery, does reflect a parking situation change from previous iterations. And so I do think that merits further consideration and clarification about the parking situation there.
Well, this exhibit here was made primarily to show what the impacts were to fishing. It wasn't necessarily meant to denote the existing PUD. It was simply meant to show what the effects would be for members of the community that, currently utilize the municipal park in that way and how that would be accommodated.
Well, this image is the one that's included for the updated PUD.
I can't tell you if that's true because I don't have the.
I had asked him to provide an example of where the public fishing will be because it's come up at every meeting.
Oh yeah,
Um,
commission wanted it.
This should not be considered the official plan. The plans that he submitted,
It's in there.
it's the same parking only. Okay.
So if we move this forward, then I would like some caveat that we're not accepting that parking as displayed, and that needs further
I wasn't planning on modifying the
clarification
parking
before
there.
that comes to the city commission.
I would suggest that one of the conditions is that the parking outline does not change from the previous iteration.
So the keyboard class sometimes gets behind their monitor and they start clicking and doing things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to do them. I was going to leave the parking exactly as it is because there's already trailer spots there, there's already parking for cars there, and it works just fine. So I don't have any reason to change that, so.
Just based on the way that I interpret the plan in front of me that was submitted, there does not seem to be an actual place that a normal person with a trailer could park. It looks like standard parking in a row. So according to this plan, that's why I'm asking, where do these trailers go? Because they're not shown on that plan. So as you're putting these changes forward, it's very helpful to use the latest version of the approved plan
Yes.
so that we're looking for those types of things.
Yes.
And then just from quick pulling up of what we have on Connect Muskegon and then some of the other plans, it looks like from what I can see, the most recent change to the parking impacted that pull-through parking from this point of view to the right of the forklift drops. That would be eliminated because that's to assist with the forklift drop area, but the pull-through parking to the left on this rendering or to the northwest would still be in existence.
Are you talking about pull-through parking there?
Yeah,
I've never seen a trailer parked there.
Well, but to Commissioner Johnson's point a moment ago, because the launch ramp hasn't been that usable, so that it might look like it's underutilized right now. But my point was that in a previous approved amendment, some of that pull-through parking just to the far left side of your circle there does look like it had been eliminated and approved because of the forklift drop, but that the parking to the left, further to the left, was still there as pull-through parking, and as the commissioner pointed out, doesn't appear to be noted in this rendering. So just want to make sure that that's still maintained. Is that, yeah.
I have no plans on changing the parking that's there.
I should say pull-through or trailer length parking.
Trailer
But
length
yeah,
parking.
sorry, that's probably the better way to say it.
So any condition should probably mention that the parking should stay the same as it was approved on the third amendment to the PUD.
Any further questions? I do have one more. Mike, what was the previous, where the handicap parking is, what was the previous space like when people could go down? About approximately how many feet previous when people were able to pull up and just fish out of their cars? Because I know that was a big issue for a lot of public. Do we have any idea? And how that compares to what's here now?
I'm not sure what you're.
At one of the last meetings, one of the continual comments was that people who were handicapped, they weren't going to be able to pull up like they were able to pull up with their vans and things like that. And I don't know what that looked like. I have no idea because I've never really seen that myself. But that was a continual comment.
I think we're talking about where it shows M5.
Yep, exactly where it shows M5.
Yeah.
Okay, so when people were previously at one point able to, on whatever part of the shore that they were able to pull up in their vehicles and fish, is this comparable to, or maybe I should wait the public comment because maybe somebody can answer it in public comment. That's a little bit more aware.
Well, it's eliminating those spaces where people parked. So people would pull up right to the ledge, and it probably wasn't the safest as how it currently is, but there was no barrier to where it was all paved. So I think people considered that handicapped access for fishing, but that will be replaced where those new docks are being
Okay.
installed.
Thank you.
So to account for that, that's where we have this new orange area there to maintain that capability. So the forklift drop was originally used in the 80s for the exact same purpose. That was the reason it was built. So this is kind of a return to function of what it was originally designed for when there was a forklift service. Actually, pretty darn close to where the dry marina building is right now. So.
I wanted to kind of clarify from the city's perspective, so that as Mr. Lietzman just mentioned, it was built as a forklift drop. They weren't built as handicapped accessible fishing. Over time, it kind of evolved into that, but that's not what the intent was. So there wasn't necessarily a replacement that was needed from an approved standpoint of handicapped fishing in that location. However, we did indicate that we wanted accessible fishing locations, and that was something that the commission, as you were well aware of, talked about, and was looking at having that accommodated further to the southeast. But that particular area was never intended for handicap parking or fishing.
I get it now.
Yeah.
So I get it now.
Yep.
So you all are providing an opportunity that we kind of just, as Muskegonites, made up on our own, basically.
In a lousy area.
Yeah.
I would say took advantage of an opportunity that presented itself. Yes, I suppose so. Yes. But I think I would also look at it and say, like, there's going to be a lot of members of the public that will be using this far more than what was being used before. I think it's important to try and maintain that sort of ability for anybody that was used to it. But I think part of growth and development and bringing more people to the water is that they actually can get there. And this is a way that we can bring lots of people to the water at a facility that was originally designed to do this exact same sort of thing while reducing trailer counts and reducing congestion at the ramp. So, and again, it's a foundational element of what we need in order to be in the cooperative use agreement. We have to launch our boats somewhere, right? And so the idea is we can launch our boats to serve members of the public that pay to be in our facility. And all of our waterfront and the fishing pier is made generally available to the public without restriction.
Thank you. Any further questions?
None at this time.
Well, we'll move to anything else. Oh. Well, we'll move to public comment at this time. If you would turn in. Did anyone turn any public comment? We have. So please come up to the podium as you will. Give your name.
Hi, I'm Ted Fricano, 1050 West Western. So I own Fricano Place. So I submitted an email in haste because I have my tenants knocking on my office door. I have customers. I have wedding reception guests saying, Ted, I have just been made aware that Adelaide Point is going to start creating fuel docks to the east. Ironically, I get this thing sent to me in the mail, and it says here, fuel dock. So I had to quickly do something. Probably should have called Ryan first. I have an excellent relationship with him. In my email that I sent you, it really says I'm very impressed with what's been going on. Ryan took the time to share with me what his PUD change meant. The fuel dock that he was referring to really wasn't, I don't know the numbers, you're talking about where the
M3 is
what?
the fuel docks.
Well, the fuel dock was not even discussed. It's way to the west. That was the concern that I had. I thought we were having a gas station built between my back end of my building and my lake. And I have many wedding receptions, I have many tenants, I have many customers, and that was the concern. So I thought, before anything encroaches to the east further, I have to do something fast. So Ryan has explained everything to me. I want to tell the Planning Commission, this PUD amend doesn't bother me in the least. Honestly, Ryan gave me a tour of what he did, they're doing. Not to sound like a wimp, but honestly, I get choked up with what I am seeing to my west. It really is a game-changing operation for Muskegon County. Yes, it's going to enhance my Fricano's restaurant, but it's going to enhance the city of Muskegon. And so there is no gas station being built between me and my lake. So thank you for letting me come and speak. And I will also go to the city commission and make that my same statement here. So disregard my email. I'm all for this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Next person may take the podium.
These are the same. I only printed 2 copies.
It's okay. We'll share.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jamie.
So, Jamie Cross, good afternoon and welcome new commissioners. Thanks for a moment today. I'm going to focus on Hartshorn Park and Marina. I'm a little confused about the agenda tonight because on tonight you've got Adelaide Point PUD, but if you pass the Adelaide Point PUD by moving the docks into the Hartshorn PUD, you're effectively changing the Hartshorn PUD. So I'm confused why they are both not on the agenda tonight, and they haven't been public noticed as such. I'm also confused why the docks were never introduced in January of 2023 when the dry rack was introduced along with the forklift operation. They were mentioned out front there, but now we're in a hurry. So at that meetings, in those multiple meetings, a lot of discussion about the bike path. Also, the bike path was supposed to be elevated over the wet area in the Hartshorn PUD. So the dry rack arena is up, the forklift is ready, and there has been no movement on the bike path being elevated, which was a part of that big discussion. And I know the mayor did ask the developer to submit a permit for that, and it has not yet been submitted to Eagle, but the docks permit has. I also want to say I appreciate that I see that the kayak launch is now in there. I appreciate that. And I see the bathroom, but again, it's not in the key. And then I also appreciate the addition of the handicapped portion in the Hartshorn PUD. Again, the Hartshorn PUD. So I appreciate those things. And it was about a 50-foot section, so Commissioner is what was lost. I'm giving you the park conditions because I think they're important because there are agreements here on park maintenance. And one of the things that happened in June were piles of sand were dropped along the seawall. A lot of that went into the lake, as you can see. And then also, I think it also exacerbated some problems in the seawall. There's also a big gap now where the forklift operation went in that you have to drive over to get into the park. There's some other conditions there. I'm asking you not to move forward until there's more clarity, because I'm hearing questions on clarity on these plans again with the PUD. And then just have them reworked, and also at the same time present the Hartshorn PUD with the Adelaide Point PUD. It only makes sense because you're jumping back and forth across them. And they should be both on the agenda tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You can approach the podium.
Mike Israel, 40 Willowwood. I'm here because I spend a lot of time down there in Muskegon, like a lot of fishing. I love the idea. It's not going to hinder anything as far as fishing for me. All the people that I know down there, a lot of regulars go down there. They're ecstatic that was opened up. And as far as the good fishing goes, that's where it's at. It's where it's open. But where the launch area is, I don't see any hindrance at all. So I'm definitely in favor for that.
That's good.
Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jake Ekholm. I'm speaking today not as an employee of the city, but as a citizen of the city. So 362 West Muskegon is my address. I really wanted to focus on, and I'm not sure if you have the proposed PUD map up in front of your monitor still, but I want to focus our attention and just advocate, as you're looking at that map and you're looking at the boat launch, there's an area immediately to the left, which is part of the city's park, that's been badly damaged by high water over the course of time, and that would be a fantastic area for us to put a zero barrier ADA fishing area. The water is a decent depth. I've pulled fish out of that spot in many cases. Was a longtime resident of the Nims neighborhood and fished with my children right there. But it's been badly damaged. And if you look, there's existing handicap parking right there. There could be an investment made through our parks planning process and our parks resource allocation in future budget years to make that a well-landscaped zero barrier fishing area. We've had those discussions internally. I plan to come to any associated public engagements for Hartshorn Park specifically to advocate for that. But I'm all for making sure that we're having equivalent access if we're allowing private development in that park, but at the same time there are real opportunities for us as the municipality to make investments in that space, and there's a fantastic area right there that's out of the way of the boat launch and the trailers and would provide easy access. And as somebody who's parent in the home growing up had mobility issues and a disability, there's a lot of places that she could not go, and so I am sensitive to that, and just wanted to bring that to the Planning Commission's attention, that I think the city has opportunity to make investments in this park as well beyond the developer. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Support. No, we'll get the questions. There'll be more time for questions.
There's been a motion to support. Is there any discussion? To close? There has been a motion to close. Is there any discussion? Secretary, can you call a vote, please, to close?
Is that a roll call or just all in favor?
We can do
You just all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll make an attempt at a motion, if that's okay.
Yes.
All right. I move that the request to amend the plan unit development at 1148 and 1204 West Western Avenue be recommended to the City Commission for approval with the following conditions. The multi-use path along with former railroad row shall be designated to take the path out of the driveway of the C6 boat storage building. More details, including a landscaping plan, shall be included for the proposed median on Adelaide Boulevard. Number 3, and an update phasing plan. Oh, are you okay with that? You get the you want updated phasing plan?
We're not calling for number 1 either.
Oh.
And he has provided the phasing plan.
Okay, great. Well, then let's make it just number 2. More details, including a landscaping plan, shall be included, and then also the parking situation should remain the same as approved in the third submission.
Commissioner, could I make a friendly amendment to add one additional condition, being that the application for the elevated bike path, be submitted to Eagle?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Support.
There's been a motion, motion has been made by Jill Montgomery Keys and supported by Ken Johnson.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? So moved.
Nope. Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand.
You would.
Okay. I just had a couple more questions, basically coming up between comment and some leftovers from before. So, can we clarify the ownership of, because this is, as one member expressed, this is embroiled in multiple plans, the actual ownership of the shoreline where the new docks are being proposed for M5 is under
City ownership.
city ownership. Okay, so
Yes.
in that case, the docks themselves will be owned by whom?
It's part of the cooperative use agreement between Adelaide Point and the city. So Adelaide Point is the responsible party for those docks, but I think technically, do we own them? No, the AP still owns them. So. No.
And therefore, if they're owned by the applicant, they have the right to determine if there's any fee structure applied to those in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But that would most likely be in concert with us.
And then one more.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a mooring field that is not shown on this map or any of the other site plans relevant to this application. How will the change of using these docks affect that mooring field? Will there be any reduction in those?
So I think my response there would be that the state is the one that's responsible for development on the water, and that wouldn't be the purview of the planning commission.
I guess I'm just looking for whether we're going to reduce people being able to moor them or not, but there's going to be less people.
Can we invite staff up to elaborate on that a little bit more? Director Eckham.
Chad, two hats.
That was a good question. It's one of the first questions I had personally as staff, as someone who formerly had a boat in the small boat basin. And so, judging by the navigable throughway along the peninsula between that and the mooring field, for the boat launch, the same navigation way will be used for these docks, and the docks will not encroach into the mooring ball area. So I spoke with the Public Works Director, and we don't anticipate a reduction in the number of available mooring balls or their ability to navigate to and from their site.
Any further comments, questions? Yes.
Trying to remember what I was going to ask because on the tip of my tongue earlier. So I was curious. There's a couple things. I was curious. So you mentioned one's no longer requested or recommended condition by staff. So how was that resolved with the multi-use path along the former railroad right-of-way being redesigned to take the path out of the driveway of the C6 boat storage building? So is that reflected in here already, or is he given some kind of other?
No, we worked with the engineering department. They say that this is actually the best route, and
Okay.
we just denote it with paintings on the concrete, and it's not going to be in a very high trafficked area for that long. So this is probably the safest route rather than directing it down Adelaide Avenue.
Okay. Then also, can we get clarification from staff as to why we are amending only the Adelaide Point PUD versus amending the Adelaide Point PUD simultaneously with the Hartshorn PUD? Because there's some overlap in terms of what's being depicted in the PUD. So can we get some clarification on the process being pursued here?
Sure. So first, it was referenced in the cooperative use agreement, as this would be part of Adelaide Point and their development. Also, this area is listed as 920 West Western, which is the whole parcel. And the parcel, there's not really been a hard boundary. It's been referenced in both of the developments. In the past, we've made them amend both, especially with Adelaide Boulevard, the north-south road. We had them denote that because it was on both plans. We didn't really feel that it was necessary with this point, since that area had already been kind of identified and it's the same parcel. So we noticed it as 920, so the same amount of people got noticed. It's the same development in terms of the public property. So technically we could put out another notice and amend Hartshorn as well. We just didn't feel like that was necessary because, again, it was kind of referenced in both plans before.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. With regard to the bathroom, it is depicted on the PUD, the bathroom building. It is not identified or called out. There is a reference to an A11 elsewhere in here, but it's not in the legend. You see a number for A11, and that was once upon a time contemplated for a bathroom on the city's Hartshorn Peninsula. It's no longer being contemplated there. So I think this is more of a technical administrative thing. I don't think we necessarily need to be amending the PUD, amending the amendment to the PUD to incorporate that, but I just wanted to point that out, that the bathroom house is depicted on the PUD, but it's just not called out in the legend. And so I think we need to move the A11 to the bathhouse and include the A11 in the legend for clarity's sake. And then the other question, though, with regard to that is, since the bathroom is a city-owned facility, and there's been some discussion of either renovating that bathroom as is and reopening it, or potentially constructing a new bathroom elsewhere. In the event that the city chooses to go elsewhere, since it is a city-owned property and would be a city-owned bathroom, would we be required to go and amend the PUD to do so, or does the city have leeway given its municipally owned property and municipally owned facility?
I would lean towards, if it's a municipally owned facility, which this is, it's our prerogative on whether or not it gets remodeled or removed. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it would require a PUD amendment if it was our decision.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Still would like the legend and whatnot updated, but good to know if we do choose to relocate in the future. And then I think that's it.
Any other questions? I'll close it.
I'll say that I support this and the conditions attached to it.
And I just want to note that I do support this as well from a logistical standpoint about how the operation of the drop will work. I see this as a simpler way to get the boats and the customers joined up and moved out. I also like the fact that it provides another amenity for the general public to use on that L dock when they're launching boats, to be able to get their boat out, tie up, they can park their car, load things up and get on, as opposed to having to wait in the launch area next to that the existing docks that we have there. So I think this provides a good benefit to the general public, in addition to making the operations for Adelaide Point easier.
Thank you. Are we ready to take a vote? Okay.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
McCoy, please.
Yes.
Jonathan Zuckman,
Yes.
Destiny Keener,
Yes.
Jill Montgomery Keast,
Yes.
Ken Johnson,
Yes.
Bruce Howard,
Yes.
motion passes.
Moving on to the next item, which is hearing case 2023-02, staff initiated request to amend Article 20, Sections 2006.12 2006.14, 2006.15, 2006. Do I have to read all these out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
At 16 and 2006.17 of the zoning ordinance to eliminate the entry door transparency requirements for certain building types.
All right, so in the form-based code, we have transparency requirements, and they state you have to have X amount of windows on the facade of the development. Also, that it has to be clear glass and not tinted. This has worked wonders for our commercial suites and our urban downtown and commercial districts, where before you couldn't really tell what was going on in these developments. With some of our early developments before the code, and now we see much more pedestrian and shopper friendly developments that are working well. One thing we did not anticipate for is when we included this into our residential developments, there's still a need for that, so it really helps with the pedestrian element and helping the pedestrian feel safer when walking the streets, when you know that there's things to look into and eyes on the street. However, we think we went a little too far with the door requirements, requiring that at least 25% of the door has to be transparent, because we're seeing with some of our new houses being built that these doors are either looking right into a kitchen or right into a living room and eliminating the privacy of the homeowners. Usually you can work around that with the windows because of blinds, but it's tough to get window treatment for custom doors. So we're starting to see a lot of people put up other types of treatments, whether it's blankets or other things that don't really look that professional. So we don't really feel like this is a needed requirement for our residential development. So we've asked to take out that requirement for the 25% door transparency on any building type that would be considered residential.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from staff?
Nope.
If we have no further questions or comments, would someone like to make a motion?
Well, let's go to the phones.
Oh,
For
I'm sorry.
public comment.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Phone people.
The same phone number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 231-724-6721.
Say it again, please.
231-724-6721 is the phone number for phone and comments. It's being put up right now.
We'll give a moment for phone in comments.
I move to close the public hearing.
Support.
Public hearing has been closed by
Oh, yep. No, you're good. You're good.
Jill Montgomery Keys and supported by Jonathan.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll take the motion. I move that the request to amend Article 20, Sections 2006.12, 2006.14, 2006.15, 206.16, and 206.17 of the zoning ordinance to eliminate the entry door transparent requirements be recommended to the City Commission for approval.
Second.
Motion has been moved by Jill Montgomery Keys and seconded by Stephen Gowen. On to the next order of.
Roll call.
Get a roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Unless there's any discussion. Yeah.
I'm gonna get it. You're doing great. Roll call, please.
Ken Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Gowen,
Yes.
Leah LaVoy,
Yes.
Jonathan Seifert,
Yes.
Destiny Keener,
Yes.
Jill Montgomery Keys.
Yes.
Motion passes.
On to the next order of business. Hearing case 2023-03, staff initiated request to amend section 2311, accessory structures of zoning ordinance to set the regulations regarding chicken coops.
So the city commission just passed an ordinance allowing people to keep up to 6 female chickens, no roosters, in the city. They can be allowed in our traditional residential areas, which is our single-family districts and our urban residential and lakeside residential context areas. They have to be on a lot of at least 3,000 square feet, and they also have to have a chicken coop. So that's why we're here today, is to set the regulations on what a chicken coop is and where it would be placed. This definition would go along with our accessory structures in buildings, which I've also attached, and it would give the definition of what the chicken coop is. It couldn't take up more than 50% of the rear yard. It would have to be 5 feet off of property lines, and it would have to be at least 25 feet from a neighboring house. And you would get a permit through one of our development permits, which is a $30 application fee, and you draw a simple site plan on the back, and we have our inspector verify that it meets these regulations.
Any questions?
I'm gonna ask my question out loud because I asked it earlier. This allows chickens in a rear yard, so it does not allow chickens in a side yard. Is that correct?
A rear yard is anything behind the front building line, so it technically could be, but you face most side yards aren't that large, so it's difficult to meet these setback requirements in that. But if you had a very wide yard, that could still technically be considered your rear yard.
Just for the people who want chickens. Want them to know.
Thank you.
May I address the chair?
Yes, sir.
I know that we don't address these here. However, do you have an idea who regulates the health or agricultural standards for livestock? Because I'm all for chickens. My grandmother had a chicken farm, but there's issues involved as far as everything from avian flu to smells, other disease, cleanliness, so on and so forth. Is there an agency within the county health department? Anybody know, Jill? Okay.
Well, we have us.
You have you.
We do have to verify that there is a feeder,
Yeah.
and that if it does become a nuisance because of smell or odor or anything like that, that we could revoke it.
Okay.
Beyond that, I'm not sure. I mean, we do have a health department, I suppose. I'm hearing no.
They don't do any enforcement on that. It's all up to the city.
Because this stuff is more involved than what people think. So, well, anyway.
Yep.
I have a question too. What happens with deceased chickens? Because my husband grew up down south, and that's like a thing often.
Yep. There I am in the backyard.
The removal of, disposal of.
Well, that would be
I do not know.
outside the scope of the item before us.
Right.
But it would be a matter of any deceased, critter that you may have on your property. You're gonna be responsible for
Yeah. I would assume it would be
disposing of it.
similar as rabbits. We allow rabbits in our animal ordinance.
Mhm.
Very similar regulations and setbacks. I would assume it's the same removal process.
And if I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I hear Commissioner Garvin on the question of health, that if he does have suggestions or ideas for that, because we have adopted the code of ordinance or amended our code of ordinance to allow up to 6 hens. And so if there's any additional input or suggestions on that, then I think staff would welcome them. And they can be brought to a legislative policy committee meeting of the city commission, perhaps.
Understood. I forget we're here just to set the regulations regarding the chicken coops itself. My apologies. Any further questions?
Directed towards staff. So the last line of this says this does not count towards the amount of accessory structures allowed on the property.
Correct.
So in theory, that someone could have a shed and a chicken coop.
Correct.
Could they have a combo shed chicken coop?
I believe they could.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you
Kinda
will
classy.
probably see
Lawnmower on one side,
people
chickens on the
adapt those. So,
Okay.
and you are allowed. Also, you're allowed a detached garage and a shed. So, theoretically, you could have a detached garage, a shed, and a chicken coop.
other. There you go.
So we could have a compound.
I have another question.
Can we have a chicken
Bordering
disco?
on such.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is, I'm sorry to put this option out there, but if I want to have a chicken coop, do I have to have chickens in it?
No, not according to this ordinance.
Are you
That's a good
considering
question.
alpacas?
What are you gonna do out there?
Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm like, what would we do with the chicken coop?
It could
Resale
become a
value.
problem of, storage or people, in there.
That's
So
a good
I-
point. Maybe we
Could be
want to
cats.
put in a clause that
I
it
think
must be removed.
you
with
should
the
have chickens in your chicken coop
Yeah.
because otherwise you're just going to use it for storage.
Yeah, I
Or I
think
can
that
even see people
condition
putting
should be included. Yeah.
dogs.
How about we add the condition that chicken coops must be removed upon the removal of all chickens from the property?
Yeah, within a period of time or
Yeah,
something.
revocation or forfeiture of the permit.
Yeah.
I
I
think
like that
that's
idea.
appropriate. Thank you.
Okay.
Catch. I wasn't even thinking about it like that.
Yeah, because we could just end up with, I'm sorry,
We're just
We're just
I
chatting.
got so much more room to put my
Yeah.
stuff now.
because we could just end up with accessory junk structures that
Yeah.
we don't want.
I don't have a garage, a shed, a chicken coop, or a basement. So.
And what would that verbiage look like, Mike? Because I could even see people housing dogs
Yeah,
Or
using it as a
or
kennel.
cats.
Yes, I would say that well,
Or turkeys.
For the purpose of housing hens and any associated
It already
Poultry?
equipment and materials to
Well,
support them.
Chicken's a chicken.
Can okay. It does say used for housing chickens. So it says a fence or covered enclosure detached from the principal structure used for housing chickens. So from my perspective, on zoning, I would say if it's housing anything other than chickens, it wouldn't be allowed.
Needs to go.
but it would we have enough teeth in the ordinance to request that somebody remove it?
Well, I think that might be a different situation, but as far as if they could house anything else in it,
Yeah.
is what I was looking at.
Correct. But I'm thinking if my issue is if we grant these, someone has chickens for 5 years and they don't want them anymore, and then 20 years later we have a dilapidated chicken coop we want to enforce on, because we have that problem with sheds.
Or just using them as a shed.
Get rid of it.
Yes, sir.
Yep,
Thank you, Madam
no
Chair.
chickens, no shed.
So I think the manager, Mr. Manager, resolves that issue of anything non-chickens being housed in there, so dogs otherwise. But then, as Mr. Franzing indicated, we still need to have a condition, and as Commissioner Garin also noted, and
Whatever
Commissioner Leroy, I'm gonna say Leroy. Leroy indicated the concern for them to remain after discontinued use, and so I do think we need to add a condition that in the event of forfeiture or revocation of permit, that the chicken coop must be removed.
Well, you don't need a permit to get the chickens. You just need the permit to develop the coop. So we would never revoke that permit once it's built. So
But,
it might.
you have to issue a permit to allow them to have chickens, right? Because you said in the event of a nuisance or order, it can't be revoked.
Right. Right. You have to have a permit. Just like a permit.
Can you pull up the ordinance? Let's see what it says.
You gotta be licensed to have a dog. You have to have a license to have a chicken. It's two doors down. There's no doors that have chickens. They're so loud. There's no rooster. And it's not.
In case any dwelling property, chicken coop, fenced or covered enclosure, or feeding container is maintained in violation of any provision of this section, the city may institute an action in circuit court to prevent such unlawful maintenance, to restrain, correct, or abate such violation, nuisance, or to prevent conduct on such a tax parcel. So they would not be applying to us to allow chickens. They just need to get the coop in order to be in compliance to get the chickens.
Can we add a permit for the coop?
Doesn't want to deal with
Well, we do. the issue is that it would get built, and then maybe it's obsolete in 5 years since they don't have chickens anymore. So it's not some. The
So it's
permit
just a
is not
permit to
something we
build.
go
It's not a
back
permit to exist.
Yeah.
How do we handle sheds?
Well, that's the,
We don't.
yeah.
I think it could be as simple as saying
Maybe
chicken coops must be removed upon not housing chickens for more than 18 months. Something very simple like that.
Yeah,
That works. That works.
That was gonna be my suggestion.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would like to throw another wrench in the works. i- Is there anything implied with maintenance standards of the coop?
That's kind of what I just read gets
Okay,
to, that if it becomes a nuisance.
okay. So
then
that,
we can- yeah.
that can cover it. All right. Thank you.
Monkey wrench over
Any other questions, comments?
can we have an amended suggested?
Do we need a
Do a
motion
friendly
to public
amendment.
hearing?
Yeah, just do it
Did
from
we
the-
do that?
Oh.
Can we close the public
Oh
hearing?
yeah, we
Yeah.
need. We don't need a friendly amendment because we haven't got to that point
Oh
yet.
yeah, yeah.
We're still in public hearing phase.
Oh,
All right. Yeah, I closed
We
the public
wait,
hearing.
wait. Gotta go to phone.
Did you just move to close it?
I did.
We gotta go to phones.
We're going to phones. We'll give a few
Yeah.
moments
Oh,
for phones. The number
okay.
is at the bottom of your screen.
Thank you.
Keep forgetting about the phone people. Sorry.
New technology stuff.
Okay, I'll move again to close the public hearing.
I'll second that motion.
Public hearing has been closed by Jill Montgomery Keast and seconded by Stephen McGowan.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I did the last two motions. Come on.
I'll do this
Yeah.
one.
All right.
I don't have it.
I move to request to amend section 2311 accessory structures of the zoning ordinance to set the regulations regarding chicken coops be recommended to the city commission for approval with the following amendment that chicken coops be removed after 18 months of not being used to house chickens.
Support.
I
I just have a comment.
yes.
You know, currently where I reside in Lakeside, there is a house that has chickens, and it is way more than one chicken. It's a couple doors down, and they are extremely loud. And there's no roosters. They make noises all the time. And then the dogs bark, of course, because the chickens are making all this noise. So I really want to say this, it really needs to be enforced, the cleanliness of these and making sure that these don't get out of control, because right now there's an uncontrolled issue, and I'm a little disappointed that the city commission approved this, because it's not even being taken care of now. So that's all I got to say. Stay aware.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a little bit different experience with chickens. My next door neighbor had a coop before we adopted the ordinance. He had the coop not even 20 feet from my front door. There were anywhere between 4 to 8 hens that he had in there at different times. My dog did bark occasionally when it saw that, but I didn't. The noise from the hens wasn't, to me, problematic. I heard clucking a little bit, but it was not excessive. No other critters got in there or attacked them. They were contained. I didn't have any nuisance issues from my experience. That coop is now gone, and when he stopped having chickens there, he did take it away. Thankfully, took the coop away. Not too long after he discontinued having hens there. But I think that we may need to, because this is a new policy or new ordinance that's come into play, and the commission wanted to move this forward from a food security and independence and sustainability issue. And I think we do need to look at getting a little bit outside of the scope here, but we do need to be mindful of enforcement going forward and be considered a potential refinement to the ordinance.
I too agree. I have both of you all because I had to call about the city, about ones right next door to me, and they were unkept, and some of them were dying, and the dogs are just going crazy. And then I have a very good friend. I didn't know that there were chickens next door for almost 10 years.
Exactly.
So I think it's just a maintenance thing and keeping a watch on that and making sure we're listening to complaints when they come in.
Maybe you should ask that they insulate the coop so when the chickens are in there, nobody can hear them. Soundproof the coop. Anyway, just saying. Sorry. Okay. Anyway.
Is there, so this is being recommended to the city commission. Is there opportunity once we get this at the city commission for it to be amended, or any amendments have to come back to the planning commission first?
They could add extra language on it.
They could add
depending on how
additional
far they stray.
conditions. They couldn't
Yeah.
lessen it. They couldn't weaken it, but we could strengthen it, so to speak. Requirements around it.
I think they could even lessen it if they felt something was too.
The city commission. Okay, I
restrictive.
just want to
Yeah,
get clarity. You know, as this is coming to the city commission, because I'm wondering as well about size of the coop relative to the number of chickens. Like, do we have? I'm just thinking, like, do we need to spell that out, or we're just going to say proximity to houses enough? Like, because don't.
I think we're going to be guessing.
We say no taller than 10 feet, and we say no more cover than 50% of the yard, and must be so many feet away from the property lines or another house. But like,
City lots are pretty small to begin with anyway. I mean, mine's 60 by 150, and most of it's taken up by house. You're not going to have a lot of room for coop back there anyway. I mean, you've got to
I think that might
25 feet from the neighbors. And
that might resolve itself without us needing to
If you think of some of
get into
the more
particulars.
narrow lots that are only 33-foot wide lots,
right, there's
you have to have 5-foot setbacks on each side, 25 foot from a house, not over 50% of the lot.
right. their
You're
coops
pretty
can be
much
this big.
restricted to a very small coop at that point, anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
Plus, I don't think people are gonna put forth the expense for a giant chicken coop when they can only have 6 hens. So I think it's a little bit self-regulating as well.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to talk through that, I suppose.
Totally.
I think realistically, people don't really understand how expensive chickens are to raise either. So I don't see it being every other neighbor has a chicken coop, but But anyhow, any other questions, comments, concerns? So did we?
You got a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we just need a
You say
Roll call.
roll call.
Leah Leroy, please.
He was asking if we can include the condition.
Oh,
Did we include condition?
Who made the motion?
I made the motion with the condition.
You did make
Yes.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I missed it.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure the condition was included in that motion. Okay.
roll call, please.
Oh,
Leah,
sure.
you said yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, Jonathan Seifert,
Yes.
Destiny Keener,
Yes.
Jill Montgomery Keast,
yes.
Ken Johnson,
Yes.
Steve Goward,
Could I get ducks?
No ducks.
Yes, yes.
That could be a refinement
Who invited this?
if you want ducks.
We used to have laying Rouen ducks and its best eggs.
They are so good.
Oh, too funny. Okay. All right.
Moving on to new business. No new business?
I guess I have a question. Can I have a question? During this?
Yes.
Or it'll be other business.
Other business?
Okay.
Which is the next thing.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to other business. Any
Other business.
questions? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a way for us to encourage folks who submit plans to this body to, if they have the capacity, to give us 3D renderings of their proposal?
Yes.
I mean, I understand that we may not be able to require it for, requiring people to have that capacity. But I think it really helps to communicate to ourselves and to the public, especially with larger projects.
We could impose that. I think that would be quite the challenge for a lot of developments. What do you?
We encourage it rather than require it. Is there a way that we can just encourage? I mean, if folks are doing they've got an architecture firm and they're doing a CAD program. A lot of times, something simple like a dock that you're putting in, and you want to see what it looks like from, the street.
Most of the time they do. But, I mean,
Yeah,
they
most
can
of the time
work
when they're really trying to
Yeah.
depict something that they know is going to be controversial
Yeah,
or something
usually
that's going to need more eyes. We do require elevations for a lot of our form-based code development, so you can see what that looks like. When they were submitting the Adelaide Point initial renderings in their first iteration, there was a lot of 3D renderings, but when they're coming back just to change things on a plan, they don't necessarily always show us what that looks like, but
It's partially.
they
us,
usually
yeah.
know when that will help.
Most of the time.
And there was a diagram today with the docks, so I don't know if that's what you're referring to as 3D or how you would like to see that from
Like Google Earth.
water's level, or
No, I'm looking at more of the way we experience our city is not from above. It's by walking around or driving around or looking at our neighbors. And
Most
so,
of them you can do get
right, so
like a rendering.
the more I think we communicate to people what they should expect through that medium, I think the better people will understand and either, be for or against things.
Most of them do. The big ones do.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, sir.
I was wondering, can we please include in our agendas going forward when we do have something that we're noticing property owners on an item? Can we include a copy of that notice in our packet so that we know what is being sent to the property owners
Oh, that's a good idea.
going into our meetings?
I always bring it with me, but I can include it into
the actual letter?
Yeah, the actual letter.
Do you want the list of addresses as well, or?
Yes.
I do.
That would be nice. Yeah, I'm thinking
I don't need it.
most want the letter,
I would like
but
to
I
see what
suppose
it
it would be
says.
nice to also.
Yeah, we have all that.
Or maybe not necessarily the addresses specifically, but maybe, and I'm not sure how we do it if we do it within GIS where we do the map.
Yeah, we can show the map that
Yeah,
shows
that might be a better way to do it.
The map
Yeah.
is fine by me. I most want the letter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the notice
Yeah,
would be
that
great
one-
to
that
have
map.
in our accompanying the item in our packet.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Sure.
Can I just add to that? I would also appreciate that because part of what we have to get used to doing, if we aren't doing this all the time, is that part of what we're doing is confirming that the process has been followed. So we need to be able to have a reference that that process has been followed.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
Well, thank you all you teachers for me today.
You did
Yeah,
great.
it was
You did a
great.
great job.
Thanks for
Motion to
coming.
adjourn. Support.
Support. We're out of here.
Oh, what's your question?
Okay.
We are adjourned.